Greetings everyone, welcome back to Lamek's Effects. Gosh darn, it's been a while since I've worked on this playlist, so allow me to tell you what is happening so that you can go ahead and leave if this does not appeal to you. Now, when I first started this channel, my goal was to begin writing biblical stories, eventually. However, because at the time I had only just recently started to learn the Bible, I couldn't tell which parts of my imagination were biblical and which parts were pagan. So in trying to write stories, my imagination was very limited and not as vast as it was before I started learning the Bible. Therefore, I decided to look into games like Final Fantasy X, which I knew had a lot of biblical symbolism. That way, I could watch the cutscenes that are in the story and extract the biblical symbolism from them. In short, what we're doing is we're watching all the cutscenes in Final Fantasy X and seeing if I can find scriptures that coincide with what we are seeing in the cutscene. And by now, we have reached Luca, just after Waka absolutely demolished the Luca goers. And now, I am playing the scene that happened right after that. Since no one talks in this scene, I'm just going to talk over it and explain what's going on and what my problem is. So, you can see that there are some fiends that are attacking, right? Now, I should be able to find scriptures for what is happening in this scene. In fact, the point was I was supposed to find scriptures in every scene. But to do so, for this one, I would need to explain how the fiends got into the Blitzball Stadium, which I cannot do without jumping ahead in the game. And I want to limit how often I did that, so here's what I'll do. I will not find the scriptures for this scene specifically, at least not today. Instead, we're going to the next scene where we can finally get Auron as a playable character.
What's happening?
Okay, for those of you who don't know, that guy is Auron, and he made such quick work of that fiend that battle might as well have been a cutscene. Okay, so do I have a script for that? Surprisingly, yes. Did you know, by the way, that in the Bible, every single man had to be trained for war? Like, check this out. Numbers, chapter 1, verses 2 and 3. Take ye the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel, after their families, by the house of their fathers, with the number of their names, every male by their polls, from 20 years old and upward, all that are able to go forth to war in Israel. Thou and Aaron shall number them by their families. That means if you are of the race of Israel and you are a man who is at least 20 years old and you are physically and mentally able, then you are a warrior. It's so like that God called the entire race an army. I am not kidding. Here, verse 2 calls the people families, but verse 3 calls those families armies. Heck, when God freed them from Egypt, before they were even a military, when they were nothing but slaves and farmers, God classified the race as an army. Exodus chapter 12, verse 51. And it came to pass the self same day that the Lord did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies. So, in other words, this man, Auron, embodies what the Bible expects from a man. And since he does, when he is seen in the street,
Auron!
Sir Auron!
So, you do know him?
Yeah, best guardian there ever was.
okay, you Final Fantasy X fans, tell me how Wakka is 23 years old and Braska defeated Sin when Wakka was only 13. Yet somehow Auron is so famous that 10 years later, Wakka knows exactly what Auron looks like. Auron was not even seen in Spira for 10 years. So how do people know him? Why is he so famous? Ecclesiasticus chapter 44 and verse 1. Let us now praise famous men and our fathers that begat us. The Lord hath wrought great glory by them through his great power from the beginning, such as did bear rule in their kingdom, men renowned for their power, giving counsel by their understanding. So Auron is known for his power and valor in battle, which is why he was called the greatest guardian that there ever was. When you fight for the defense of your people, they will remember you. This made Auron a famous man. Not only that, but this verse also says that Auron would be giving counsel by his understanding. But we haven't gotten that far enough in the story to see that... Wait a minute. We did get that far. Because in the beginning of the game, when Zanarkand was attacked by Sin, what is the first thing we saw him do? He gave Titus counsel on how to survive.
These ones don't matter. We cut through. Don't bother going after all of them. Cut the ones that matter and run. This could be bad. That! Knock it down!
What?
Trust me, you'll see.
So, having power, showing respect, and giving wisdom will make you famous. This is funny because I know of many people who think they can make a name for themselves by selling drugs, killing other people, joining politics, or doing sports, or trying to get the money, trying to get the bag, or trying to sleep with the most girls. They think that all these worldly things will give them a famous name that will make them remembered. But when they die, here's what the Bible says about them. In Ecclesiasticus chapter 44, this time verse 9. Same chapter, verse 9. And some there be which have no memorial, who are perished as though they had never been, and are become as though they had never been born, and their children after them. In other words, when they died, no one remembered them. They were so inconsequential that it is as if they had never been born. All the talk about trying to sleep with a bunch of women, getting money, selling drugs, having nice shoes, all of that was so unnecessary and worthless to the grand scheme of the world that even though they might have gotten these things, no one could remember their names or faces or what they contributed after they died. There was nothing left of them. It is like they never even existed. Now, with that said, when I was young, I wanted to be like Auron, a warrior, well-respected, wise. And speaking of which, 1 Maccabees chapter 14, verse 9. The ancient men sat all in the streets, communing together of good things. And the young men put on glorious and warlike apparel. So, when young men like me see strong men like Auron in their community, they imagine and prepare themselves for war. In other words, they want to be like that men. The same way that nowadays people talk about Goku and all these famous anime characters and video game characters, when you fight for your people, people will talk about you that way. That's what makes your name remembered and why Auron was remembered. I suppose that is why Peter, a disciple of Christ, was so skillful with the sword that he could cut off a man's ear, because he was a young man prepared for war from seeing his own elders. Because part of the religion is to be ready for war, always. Because the Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name. Exodus chapter 15, verse 3. Now we can check out Seymour's final Aeon, Anima, next time on Lemex Effects.